Hey everyone, Brayden here coming to you with a long-awaited video. The last few weeks I've been in the parks a bunch. I've really been enjoying it. The other night I did Fantasmic, which is awesome. Last week I did the Christmas party and I posted a vlog of that here on the channel. And that video had a very positive tone, and for good reason. The Christmas party is awesome. This stuff we're going to be talking about today though, not going to be the same sort of glass half full type vibe, because the truth is the glass isn't half full when it comes to the current management and financials of the Walt Disney Company. In fact, the glass has very little water left in it at all, if you want to call that cast member sentiment, fan sentiment, even investor confidence. On all these fronts, things are continuing to deteriorate as Disney continues pressing the gas pedal down on that Disney Plus direct-to-consumer model they are practically married to at this point. A hungry beast, as the CEO himself calls their content spending strategy, which cost $30 billion this year alone. And during the earnings call this past week, which we're about to get into, CFO Christine McCarthy let us know Disney plans to spend another $30 billion next year on content spend alone. Mind you, going into a recession, the Bloomberg forecast now put at a 100% probability of occurring within the next year. So to me, I don't entirely understand the executive's vision here. Maybe I will come 2024. Disney Plus will be profitable. Everything will be great. They're so focused on the subscriber number, and they're basically paying to bring in subscribers. And the question is, when do we start actually making money? This quarter, Disney Plus generated what executives are calling peak losses. So they're trying to say, oh, we know the losses were really bad this quarter, but they're going to get better from here, better and better and better. Still doesn't sound too good. And the question really is, how does Disney carry on as they currently are? This is absolutely not sustainable. I don't think Disney would even claim that it is. They are spending a ton of money on this stuff, trying to get it going here. And on the most recent earnings call, the executives indicated that some big changes are coming. Throughout the call, they mentioned macroeconomic conditions, headwinds, a potential recession next year, things of this nature. Really, I think what they're doing is priming the pump for what comes next, which is what I've called it on Twitter, a storm. Not the kind that we've had here in Central Florida lately, but a storm nonetheless. And perhaps by the end of this, we'll have a new CEO. But first up is definitely just going to be major cuts across the board. Along with the earnings report, Disney announced cuts to their marketing budget. And Friday, we found out Disney is beginning a hiring freeze, as well as layoffs, with many other players throughout the industry also beginning to do exactly the same. Needless to say, this news has not been good for morale at the company. I was at Fantasmic with cast members the other night, and they were concerned about this. They were talking about it, and I was saying, look, there's no way that Disney is going to freeze hiring at Walt Disney World. There's too much turnover. They always need fresh faces. They're having trouble finding people for the prices they're willing to pay at the parks. Disney's constantly hosting job fairs. They're emailing past college program cast members, inviting them to come back next summer as alumni, things of this nature. But higher paid, more expensive labor you have at both the parks and the studios, and white collar jobs that could be concentrated to a smaller group, projects that aren't showing profits, things like this. I do think that we will see layoffs in those areas in short order, as is already happening across the tech and media spaces as we speak. Peter Nord on Twitter sent in this great graphic from Economy app that visually breaks down the earnings report we just got, where you can see for yourself what I've been talking about for many earnings reports now. On the left, you can see all the segments of Disney that generate revenue. That revenue heads over to the middle where it hits costs to run all these various segments. And as you can see, the expenses alone at Disney right now are eating up almost everything that they are earning in revenue, with that tiny sliver of profit making it out alive. And what comprised that tiny sliver? Was it a big Marvel movie? Was it Disney Plus? No, you know what it was. It was the parks. It was the Disney parks, the most consistent segment Disney has, where virtually every quarter it is bringing in solid income. The issue with the parks is the margins aren't the best, because it costs a lot to actually run the parks with all the labor involved. So that is why you'll notice Disney is oftentimes more focused on the studios end of the business, because when you have something like Avengers Endgame, it's basically you spend this much and you can make almost infinite amounts of money. So you can make several orders time more than what you paid for it, whereas at the parks, it tends to always be between that 20 to 30% range when it comes to the margins, which makes it a less desirable business. It's interesting seeing the company's earnings in this way because it really shows how much money Disney is spending between the streaming business, which accounts for a lot of this, running the parks, that's also quite expensive, servicing debt from the Fox acquisition, which we've talked about recently. It seems like Disney shouldn't have costs this high. You look at Disney's competitors, such as Universal, who is in the process of massively expanding their parks division, not just with Epic Universe, the new theme park coming 2025 here in Orlando, but also all the expansions they're doing at their theme parks across the globe. And you know how Universal is delivering returns on the studio's end of their business? They have huge content licensing deals with Amazon Prime and Netflix, where they don't have to hang their hat entirely on the success of their own streaming platform and spend the majority of their time worrying about the things that Disney has to spend their time being worried about. For example, Universal made a ton of money at the box office with Minions: Rise of Gru. They put it on their own service for a 4-month exclusive window, then they kick it over to Netflix, and Universal takes home a very nice paycheck on top of all the money they've already made for doing precisely nothing. Whereas Disney is going for this more costly all-in-one approach where they want to be the masters of their own destiny, and they're putting it all on this one idea essentially. They're really concentrating on Disney Plus. It's not a very diversified model, needless to say. It's really they're betting the farm on this one service, where Disney is now relying very heavily on their ability to bring in subscribers through advertising, continuing to keep current subscribers on the service by constantly generating new episodes of shows and releasing different movies and things of this nature. All this stuff costs money for Disney. It is not cheap. So it's interesting how we've all perceived Chapek as being the bean counter, Bob Paycheck as some call him. Where is the paycheck for the shareholders that he's supposed to be optimizing the company for? Disney posted pretty bad results this quarter, and the stock sold off quite heavily. And zooming out on the charts, looking at the absolute state of Disney's stock, this has not been a great investment as of late. And yes, this isn't exclusive to Disney. It does have to do with some major macro headwinds that are definitely influencing the price of Disney's stock. But no macroeconomic headwind forced Iger to acquire Fox or Chapek to squeeze his loyal parks fans for extra per guest revenue amidst a pandemic. So all this talk about how Chapek doesn't care about the cast members because what he's really focused on is optimizing everything for the good of the shareholders and creating value for them. Where is the value even on the shareholder side? It's like a worst of both worlds situation here. I have no financial stake in Disney currently, besides this channel, of course. I'd like to see Disney around tomorrow, but if I did have shares, there are some concerns here. You know where I think the spending should be going. I think it should go where the strength is, which of course is the parks. On the earnings call, CFO Christine McCarthy was asked about some higher expenses on the park side, and she made reference to the expense of bringing back Fantasmic. Nighttime show development was specifically what she said, and also the cost of bringing back the parties. It really seems like the executives let these things go forward somewhat reluctantly, sort of by the tone there. I don't really know what was going on there. Disney should be investing more in that side of the business because it's a sure thing. It actually makes money. Look at the dates for the Christmas party. Most of them are already sold out. I like how the return of Fantasmic, Not So Scary, and the Christmas party, these tiny line items in the overall scope of the Disney company, they were scrutinized on the earnings call. We're talking about a drop in the bucket relative to what the studios are spending. Another $30 billion are going there next year, and that doesn't even seem to be scrutinized. It's just a given. And that goes back to how the executives think about the company. They believe that the parks are downstream from the content they put places like Disney Plus. That's the synergy machine, as Bob Chapek calls it, that they're all about. But as we've seen so far on this content end, where content is king, Disney is not bringing in money. The costs are absolutely enormous. Disney is not making a profit yet on Disney Plus. So the question is, when does this become profitable and we get back to more of a normal income expectation at Disney where we can go in and confidently buy the stock? Well, for a long time, Disney has been saying 2024 is when direct-to-consumer will begin printing money and deliver a return for investors. But this earnings call, we saw a little bit of a shift, a notable shift in the language. Now Disney claims, this is a direct quote from the report, quote, Disney Plus will still achieve profitability in fiscal 2024, assuming we do not see a meaningful shift in the economic climate. which, judging by that Bloomberg economics forecast I mentioned previously, it's extremely likely that we do see some sort of a shift in economic climate. It's more of a debate over how bad it's going to be, and Disney knows this. So reading in between the lines, I'd wager Disney believes there is a non-negligible chance that they don't achieve profitability in 2024, which is what they've been promising for a long time. And when that goal isn't met, we know what's going to happen. They're going to blame the macroeconomics. That'll be where all of the blame goes. And by the way, the macroeconomics are something that should be blamed. That's definitely going to be a contributor there. But I think that there's also some decisions in terms of the pricing strategy, in terms of how all in they went on this one service. There's other things, management related decisions, that are definitely going to influence the outcome here with this project. So we will have to see. On the topic of parks in a possible recession, the CFO was asked about it, and she said that in the event of a recession, what they'll do at the parks is they will use discounts, but not to the extent that they have in the past. You can tell they don't like discounts even though they work. It's very bizarre. It was also inferred that they might bring back annual pass sales at Walt Disney World, and there was reference made to increasing park capacity in the reservation system to allow for even more guests in the parks. Basically, don't cap the parks as low, let more guests in order to offset any sort of potential decrease in per capita guest spending as a result of worsening economic conditions. So that's the state of the Walt Disney Company. There's a storm brewing. I'm telling you guys, there really is. We've got layoffs, we've got hiring freezes, we've got cost cutting, all the while record amounts of revenue being diverted towards these studio projects. So the main thing I want to get across is, last financial video that I did, I was really cutting Chapek some slack, pointing out all of the major errors his predecessor made, which are hardly ever mentioned because people like the guy and they don't like Chapek. But at this point, Chapek, I'm sorry, bro. You know, I can't keep defending you to the ends of the earth, right? Like, this is your company now. Chapek is running the show. His loyalists are in all the top positions. So where are the returns? Remember, this is supposed to be Bob Paycheck. There is no way that there was no room for cost cutting in that $30 billion they spent on studio content this year. There was absolutely a way that they could have marginally reduced that and still gotten near or exactly the same returns on the studio end. And clearly Chapek doesn't entirely disagree. He has sent out an internal memo, which leaked online, where he announced the formation of a cost structure task force, which is going to facilitate cuts across the company. I get concerned it's the parks that'll end up seeing a lot of cuts. You wonder why Disney was so cagey about announcing the dates for new meet and greet opportunities out here at Walt Disney World, especially in regards to Galaxy's Edge and so on. Maybe it's because they've known that these cuts are coming and they are really going to scrutinize every little expense even more than they already have. So how bad does it have to get before the board changes their mind on who should be CEO? Who knows? We will see. As I said, a storm is coming and it's relatively impossible to see what lies on the other side just yet. One more thing on Chapek that's quite interesting. This is just a rumor, something I've been hearing, but I've heard that Chapek is still really intent on doing that Big Thunder Mountain, the Beyond Big Thunder Mountain thing at the Magic Kingdom. Essentially what it is an expansion of Fantasyland, sort of. So maybe we'll see some sort of investment at the parks there. This does seem like something that Chapek wants to do. And I've been telling you guys for a long time, I do believe that Chapek does want to invest money in the parks and do some of these expansions because there's really a clear profit motive to do so. It's not like a crazy idea by any stretch, and Chapek definitely sees the value there. It's just the timing isn't that great. Getting funding right now, not a great situation there. There's really not a whole lot of money sloshing around to do something like a big expansion at the Magic Kingdom. We still could see it here though, which would be pretty unbelievable. You know, if we're going into a recession, they're probably going to hold back on any sort of announcement there or any sort of moving forward on that, but it does sound like Chapek wants to do it, at least last I heard. Maybe that sentiment will change, but I found that to be pretty interesting and worthy of mentioning here. So who knows what the future holds? Hopefully I gave you guys something to think about, and hopefully this all resolves for the better. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe with those notifications on so you don't miss the news when it happens. Since this is a financial video with a lot of forward-looking statements about what might happen and things like this, I want to add a disclaimer. Nothing said in this video constitutes financial advice. Do your own research. The rest of the week, I will be at IAAPA, the IAAPA Expo here in Orlando. It's basically this big attractions industry expo I first covered here on the channel back when I moved down here to Orlando in late 2019. 2019. So this will be my second time going. There was one last year, but I didn't make it out to that one. This one, now we're like totally back. You know, now the events of the last 2 years are pretty much all said and done. So hopefully it'll be a really, really awesome expo. And there's going to be a little bit of a Disney presence this year. They're doing some sort of event. And also on the expo show floor, you have all of the manufacturers and vendors that Disney uses to make everything that you see in the parks. So needless to say, it should be quite educational. I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you so much for watching. From the Mickey Mouse Magic Studio, this is Brayden. Have a magical day.